Hi everyone, this is Aki with another Keynote video. We're going to talk about the less frequently discussed topics of creating tables in Keynote and make them look aesthetically pleasing and easily understood, how you can maybe organize your text with the use of tables instead of text boxes. Sometimes it's easier, especially if you have a lot of text you want to present. And how to apply animations, how to format your tables if you're pasting them from Excel or Google Sheets, and how to use the data to create charts, and you can apply animation and how to format that as well. And we'll also show you, because it's going to be a series of 3 videos, how to create formulas and use your formula, especially if you're pasting your information from Google Sheets or Excel. It pastes as value, so you want to make sure you double check everything. If during your formatting, if something was lost, you want to double check your data, it's correct. And many of the formulas that you use in Excel or Google Sheets, you can also use in Keynote. So let's get started. So the number one thing, let me show you how to insert tables. So I have an empty slide, and if I just click at the top of my menu table, I will have that option, but I can also use insert at the very top in case you don't have it as your toolbar. You can say insert table, and you can also specify what you want to insert: basic table, plain tables, and something like this. So if I say plain table, that's what I get. You can just select it to delete it. If you select this option, you can see some suggestions, some default formatting that you can use. And obviously I don't really like many of these. I actually try to always use the most basic one, something like this, or maybe even the one that's like cleaner like that. They don't have the best options for the default tables. Now you can try to use that, and if you want to add more columns, let's say at the very right, you have this option to add more columns, and you can change it here as well. So let's say I wanted 3, and then you can add rows by just selecting this bottom option. This kind of like a sign. It looks kind of like an equal sign, kind of like that, but it just, I guess, represents more data. And let's say you have some data here, and I can manually try to do this, even though I prefer not to, and I'm going to show you how to copy and paste and do this much easier. But let's just kind of get started to kind of show you how to do that in case you want to start typing. Okay, so I position my data on the side, and I can say month. Maybe I'll just do the month first, and high and low temperatures. This is temperature for Chicago for the year, and I'll say January, and that's gonna be 31, 17, and so on. And you can just keep filling it out, and you can do your data like this. However, I prefer copying and pasting because it's so much easier, so I'm going to stop doing this right now. This was just kind of as a representation, but this is good if you have maybe text data, something like this. So you can see right now I have this text on my slide, and it looks nicely organized, but it's actually in a table. It's disguised in a table. I just don't have any borders. So sometimes if you have a bunch of text that you want to organize, sometimes it's easier if you have it in a table, especially if there's more columns and so on, and then just remove the formatting. So you see it's a table, but when I go whenever you insert a table, use a table, in a top menu at the top you have it under format. Now you will have a table option. This is where we're going to be working with all these options to format our tables. Now I'm going to show you what happens if we copying and pasting it. So I'm going to have an empty slide here, and we're going to try to make it look like this, nicely organized and formatted. And so let's go to the empty slide. So I'm going to go to my Google Sheets, and I'm actually going to copy information from this section about car sales in 2021. And I'm just going to go to my slide and do Command V to paste it. And once it pastes it like this, it just pastes whatever formatting you have from your Google Sheets or Excel. Now if you select this table and go to the top of your menu under Format and Table, now you have all these options, and you have some default formatting options, and if you try to use them, so the way to do it, like you want to just click in the upper left corner, and then if you try to use some of these formats, I mean, they're not spectacular at all. So what I will show you later on, you can save some of these formats for future use. But for now, I'm just going to start with what I have. The first thing I like to do, because we want to make it look like this, and there's just few things you have to do to make it look really nice and aesthetically pleasing. If you just select your table and then you see these like little squares on the sides, you can just drag it to make it larger. So first I like to just enlarge it so I know what I'm working with. Then once I have this, the number two things that I like to change is increase the font so I can see the data better. So at the menu top, table, cell, text, you go to text. So it's still the same option as if you're using Keynote for text. And it's Arial, so maybe I'm going to change it to, actually let me try to do Montserrat for now, because I want to show you something, what happens with some of the numbers. So I'm going to increase this to 35 points, so now it's much larger. I like that. And I'm going to change the font. Now here you can change the text color. I'm going to make it all black just as a starting point. Now another thing that I like to do, let me change the alignment. So if you go to the table, I want to align all the text in the middle. I'm going to change for some of the columns, but I want to just start with that for now. Now, if you wrap text in cell, it doesn't matter right now because all my cells are big enough, but whenever you have a small cell, if you don't have that, basically your text is cut off. So if you check this wrap text in cell, basically you'll be able to see the text going 2 lines, 3 lines, whatever it needs to do. Now, whenever I do this, now I'm going to also go to the top row and click that arrow and change it to header row. The reason why is because, let's say, if I want to go to this table, yeah, it's under table. If you click table and you scroll down to alternating row color, if I click that, I have this color starting this way, so every second row it's different color. But if I want to then later on do my top row different color, then you have color, zero color. So I don't like that. I like to have a header, one color, and then start with white. So that's why I'm going to convert the top row to convert to header row. And so now you can see the alternating row color jumps one over. And now what I like to do is actually change this color for my top row. Now you actually have to go to cell to change this color, and I'm going to say I want a color fill. And what I like to use is like maybe use one of these like default colors, but what I like to do is change the opacity. So I don't like these very strong colors, just make them like maybe at 50% or even less. So I usually will going to use maybe 20-30%. And then for my I'm going to select the table. You want to make sure you select the table. If I just select this, I'm selecting a row. So all the changes formatting that I'm making is actually to this row, not to the whole table. So I'm going to select, make sure I select the table. You can't see it. I mean, nothing is really happening. I know it's happening because I can drag it. And you can also, position your table. You can see it's right now positioned in the center. You can also arrange it by changing it, left, let's say, and so on. So you can position it. But anyway, we were talking about the alternating row color. So now I will go back and now I will choose the same color that I chose from my header row. But now I'm just going to even decrease the opacity even further. So just going to be like maybe 15%. So, they're kind of the same shade. So you don't want to make too many different shades. Actually, maybe this one, I'm going to do it a little bit more intense. Let me see, go back to my color, maybe a little bit darker like this. Okay, so now I have this. Now, with the alignment, I still want to align because I align my text to be horizontally centered, but now I want it vertically centered. So you can see the text right now, it's at the top of the row. So I want to go to table, to text, and you scroll down to vertical alignment, and you click that, and now all of your text will be vertically aligned. So I'm going to select the whole table and do this for all of the cells. So now I have it like this. Now whenever you want to move something, so I want the rank to the left, it's very easy. You can just grab it and actually just reposition it like that. And now let's say I want this, text maybe, this column to be fit to the numbers. So if you just hover over the top column and just double click, kind of like in Excel or Google Sheet, it will fit the text. Maybe I can drag it just a little bit, just give it a little bit of cushion, and then I can actually select all the columns at once and do the same thing. So I like to do this first because I'll show you what I will be doing next. Now here, this text, I actually want to align to left. So I'm going to align to left, and I'm going to position a little bit more space. Now you see what's happening when I'm changing the size of this column, like it's just adjusting the next column. It doesn't adjust the whole thing. So now I have these uneven columns here. So what I like to do is actually fit text, and now I actually select all the columns, and I can actually drag it like here. And if you want to see how big each column is, if you go to table and scroll down, it has row and column size, and I know I have width of 2.96 inches, and this one is different, and this one is different. They're all different. So I could select all of them at once and do like, put in 3 inches, for example. And the next column, I can make it larger if I like, just like that. And then let's say for rows, I like to also add source information. So right now, this table does not have a title or source information. Okay, if you select your table and if you scroll to the very top, when you select table, you have option for title and caption. And I'm going to add both. Now, if you want to resize your table, you can just drag it a little bit here, and you can change the size vertically and horizontally at the same time. For now, I'm not going to think about it, like maybe I want something like this. And for caption, I usually use for source. So I'm going to use source information, and what I like to do is align on the left, and maybe let's say I'm just going to take some dummy source information. Actually, I have a source here. I'm going to take this source information for my data and paste it in here. And if you enter, then you get it underlined. You can also change it to blue if you like. So I'm going to change it to blue and italic for website. And then I like to have some cushion space. So now if I just try to add more space here, what happens, because I have this color row, is becoming bigger, so that doesn't look good. So what I like to do is actually add one more row below as a cushion space. And right now I have these borders which I'm going to remove. So I'm going to show you when I select my table, I'm going to remove all these grid lines. I don't want to have any grid lines. So now you see it doesn't really show that there's a row, it's just a spacing. It just gives me this extra cushion for my source, and I can now add even more space if I wanted to, and still being this part of the table. Now for the header or the title of the table, you can see that if I try to expand it, nothing is happening to the table, so that's good. So then I can say car sales 2021. And then I can also change, if I just go to format, title, just like anything else in Keynote, and I'm going to maybe change the font to something like this, and bold, and maybe increase it a little bit like that. So then everything stays together, everything is joined. So if I want to move it around, it's all together. And now also another thing, I noticed that there's still some borders here. So I'm going to select this row and go to cell, and now there are borders here. I'm going to remove all the borders. I don't want to have any borders. Now the one thing that I don't like here is these, you have to go to each of these sections to basically see if there's any borders. So it's kind of, it's not the best, most efficient way of doing it, but I like to actually add, oops, you see what happened? I can just grab something and move it, and so I don't want to do that, but I want to just select the first cell and maybe the last one if I click shift and go to the right border under cell, and I can either choose the predefined style, like something like this, or maybe I just add a little bit of color here, or I like to actually usually do like a dash line of 3 points, something like that. And now the numbers, I like to have, you know, the numbers line up on the right. So I'm going to select all the numbers, text, and put them on the right so they're, you know, line up correctly. However, look what's happening. The font that I chose at the very beginning, Montserrat, you can see that each of the numbers is taking different amount of space. So for numbers, I suggest to use a font that's like Monospace, that it has the same amount of space for each number. So I would use something that's going to line them up better. So let's see, Helvetica New could be, you see it's much better, but I'll just use the regular Helvetica. Okay, so that looks much nicer, and I can see that the numbers are lined up nicer. Now, if you select these numbers, this is right now I have just plain numbers, but if that was, let's say, dollars or price of something, the way to change it, if you go to cell and under data, it says automatic. I can, you know, I have it numbers, but you can choose currency. You see, that's what it would be, currency, percentage fractions, and so on. I'm going to click number because this is number, but you can also select if you want to have decimals. So right now I have 0. You can select to add decimal if that's data with decimals and you need that, but I'm going to remove it. And here is also another very helpful in formatting option, separator for 1000. So this doesn't look so good without it. So if you add it, it makes the data much clearer and nicer. Now let's see what else did I have in my final presentation. Okay, so I also am going to show you, even though this is for another video, but I want to show you quickly that you can do, you know, this data is all values, right? This is no formulas, but I like to, even though I'm copying this data from Google or Sheets or Excel, I like to make it as a formula just to double check. And you can just enter into cell equal and then sum, and you can select the cells just like in Google Sheets or Excel, and then copy the formula, select all, and paste. And what I like using, why I like using the under table alternating rows is because when I'm pasting it, you see it's not making, let's say if I'm pasting from a white row into the blue row, the formatting doesn't change. If you do it manually, if you add color manually, like let's say if I take this formula and paste it here, you see it changes the color. So I like using this alternating row color versus coloring myself, because later on I can work with formulas better. And then maybe underneath, let's say I want to add sum to the whole column, select. And now maybe I want, you just click this summer, I wanted to have it at the top. If I go to cell, I'm sorry, under text, now I want to align it to the top and maybe make it bold and line up like this. So then this looks better. And then what I also have here is just a shape that I just put together. I can just paste the shape here, so you can just do like a rectangle that you're just kind of adding it like that. few more things that I want to show you is also how to work with some of these column and row options. So if I select a column in the upper right corner, I have this arrow down. If you click on it, you have option to sort your information. So let's do this on maybe this data. If I want to sort this, and it's smart enough that when I did the header row, it just sorts alphabetically the data. So if you don't have the header row, you might get it sorted as well. You can also, sort in descending order. You can add column before or column after. You can delete a column right there. You can also do the fit width to content right there. Cut, copy, paste style. Now I use the copy paste style all the time. So let's say I'm going to change this text. I'm going to change it to maybe, let's style it like italic, and maybe I change this to another color, like maybe this kind of color or something like that, and I did some other work, let's say on this, and there's just a lot, and I want to copy and paste this somewhere else. If you do option command copy, and I can apply it option command V to anywhere else, I'm just pasting this style. So you see, I can just select where I want and paste the style. So this is actually another very good option to do. Now let me see if there were all the options. Wrap text, clear all, you can do that as well. For rows, the same thing. You can add rows, delete rows, fit height to content, as we were talking about it, but I showed you how to do it if you do it all at once, but you can do one at a time. And copy paste style as well. So these are a few options that you can do within the table. If you just right click on the top left corner, you have this additional option for distribute rows evenly. So this will make it according to the size of your table. You can also do distribute columns evenly. So you will also do this even for each of the columns. And let's see, what else do we have here? Bring to front, meaning if you have other objects on the slide. And finally, one more thing I want to show you that's very important, especially if you have other things on your slide, is to lock it. If you go to arrange and lock it, now it's locked, so you can do other things with the slide, so you're not messing up your table. Oh, one more thing. Let me show you this table. So I have the data in this table right here that I copied. Now you can see how this data is lined up to the left to the border, and there's no spacing. So another trick is if you select them and then you go to, let me see, you go to text layout, and under indents you just add a little bit of spacing to give a little bit of cushion from the border, if that's the case, if that's something that you have. Now finally, after I have this beautiful table that I just put together, I want to maybe reuse it, and every time I paste some other table, I don't have to redo all of it. You can select this table, and under tables now you can add a style. So I'm going to add this as a style. Now if I'm going to go here and try to maybe use this style that it doesn't sometimes work. Now let me show you. Let me actually paste the same data that I had before. Okay, I just copied the data again. I'm going to paste it right here, and then if I select this, I'm going to still increase the size because the size won't be changed, and I'm going to go to my style. It doesn't really do everything. Now there's a trick that I can show you that where it works a little bit better. If I click on this style and right click, I have this option. I can delete the style, create a style from an image. I'm going to click that, and I actually have a picture of my style of the photos. So I'm going to select this, and now if I'm going to add this and go back to my previous style, for some reason it just works. It doesn't do everything at once. Oh, now it did. It doesn't do everything 100%, but at least gets you started so you don't have to redo everything. But I don't know why this works, but it did work. The first time I did it with the image and then go back to the style, it worked better. So maybe that's like a tip in case it's not working for you. You can also, one more thing I want to show you is that table that I have, I can apply any kind of animation as anything else. So I can add built-in effects. I'm going to maybe do kind of blinds and then build out effects. I'm going to do like a crumble. And so this is really cool. Like you can do it in part of your presentation. It's, doing all this fun stuff in your keynote presentation. So thanks so much for watching.